Yeah, I'm Stephan, working for Red Hat, working on LLVM, working on LibreOffice. Yeah, that'll be some very high level, no details, no technical details, love story, 5-minute thing on how we use LLVM in our development. So LibreOffice, probably all know that, probably can all use it way better than I can. Large code base, old lineage, so it comes from StarOffice, then OpenOffice, now LibreOffice, so it's 25 years old at least, or even older, some parts still of the code. Cross-platform, everywhere, use different compilers for it, used to use the Sun compiler even, but I guess we removed the last ifdefs for workarounds for it by now, but Clang, GCC, Microsoft compiler, even got it running with some minor issues by now with Clang CL, which is a very great thing. So if anybody of you was fundamental in getting that working, thank you. Especially now that the Clang plugins also work in Clang CL, because we always have some parts of the code that are platform dependent. So when I got the plugins working for Clang CL, that was the first time that we got really good coverage information for warnings in these parts of the code. I'll come back to that in a moment. And we'll always try to keep up with the latest standards and improvements we can use from those, limited by the tool chains we use. Like most of the time, it's the Microsoft compiler that bites us there with conformance. So yeah, you can compile that lot of code and then use it and be happy. I don't know how to use the application that falls out of it, though I concentrate more on how the code actually works. And this large code base, you always find places there where you find patterns and think you could improve that, or devise warnings so that people don't run into trouble there and improve their code. So we, for ages, we already did warning-free code, and that's very important when you have a large user or a large developer group, that the people are acquainted with the idea that you sometimes need to add little tweaks to your code to make it warning-free on all platforms. So they already have the idea that when you come along with further warnings of your own making, that sometimes you need to just do some minor tweaks to your code to keep all the warnings happy. So problem with things like Coverity, which we also run on the code as closed source, when there's an issue of false positive there, you can get angry with that tool, but you can't do much beyond that. So we often come up with ideas where we have findings in the code that we want to generalize and then look for across all of the code base. So what we did at some point is get into the business of writing our own Clang plugins, integrated into our build system, so that those people who do use Clang for building actually benefit from this all the time. And we also integrated it with our patch handling, so whenever somebody sends in a patch and that is tested on all the platforms, then these plugins kick in as well. So what have we? We started like 4 or 5 years ago maybe. By now we have around 50 of these AST visitors that we use. So that's our main route of attack there, to write such visitors, from trivial ones like replacing null pointers with a new syntax. We need even that because some of the code is for extensions that are still only required to have C++ 98, so they can still use the other stuff, and we can't rewrite that to use C++ 11, for example. Then we have really deep things looking into how the code is organized and whether it follows some protocols that are relevant when we change naked pointers to something smarter, and due to the way the code is organized, you need to be careful there and have to follow some protocols. Rewriting all the stuff, of course, thank God, so you don't need to do that yourself. And also using Clang for then when we're done with the checkers, with the warnings, we'll also use it at runtime, doing asend builds, ubsend builds, sanitizers, and also based on that, doing fuzzing, because we have large coverage, check coverage, we have lots of input files that you can use for all the...
So we have
Thank you.